we as a church board have really looked over the last couple months the idea of implementing art in different forms within the church. And after looking at the long list of pros and the list of cons as well, and just looking at our budget and the idea of would it really benefit putting art in the church, or would it just be aesthetically pleasing, we decided that it really would be a good idea to add this into the church. Not just the idea of adding pretty colors or pretty shapes or pretty pictures even to the church, but the idea of adding to what us as a church stand for, and the idea of just really implementing who we are. And like one of the main ways that art can really help us with this is breaking that linguistic border. The idea of what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, the one and only substitute for experience which we have not ourselves had is art. I mean, this really does come through a lot. None of us were alive during biblical times, so none of us, truthfully, were there to experience the crucifixion, or there to experience when Noah set sail on the ark. We don't have that in our minds as a real live event. We have the scripture to say what it should have looked like, what it did look like, and what it represents we know fully. But it's through this art that we really can experience it. And this idea of art is just the idea of being able to put ourselves in a setting that we really weren't in, and being able to see those details come alive. And like one of these main things that really does help with this is if you look at Rembrandt. Rembrandt liked painting a lot of biblical scenes, a lot of the parables. And one of his major parables that he painted was the prodigal son. And the scene he painted from this was the return of the prodigal son. And you can just see in this painting the feeling that is shared by the brother, by the father, and by the prodigal son. You can see the shame, you can see the filth, and you can see the dismay by the son that has returned. And at the same time, you can see the father that is just so loving and so happy his son is back. And right off to the side is that brother who's just angry at his dad for accepting it and can't believe that his brother has returned to take more wealth away from what he believes he deserves. And it's just this idea of being able to capture so much emotion and such a powerful picture into one painting that we really think it is worth putting in the church. Not everyone is literally savvy. Not everyone can understand literature in a perfect way. And very few truthfully can. And that's the idea of where this picture comes in. If it's the idea that they just don't have a high capacity for English, or the fact that they may speak a different language, if we have that painting on the wall, they're still able to see what that painting stands for and what we as a church stands for, is able to see that biblical scene come to life and experience something that they couldn't experience if we did not spend this money, this time, and our efforts on putting art into this church.
Basing off of what Brandon has said, especially in a church setting where we do have lots of members at different areas of education, ranging anywhere from preschool to people with PhDs, it's really essential that we do have some form of communication with them that can reach through all the different barriers. And bringing it on a psychological perspective, it also brings a lot of moral development to a person. Because when you are looking at pictures, you are learning to become an internal viewer. And based on Daniel Freeman's research and theories, he believes that as an internal viewer, you learn to make better decisions based on the artwork that you surround yourself with. Because basing it on things, pictures, artifacts, even sculptures that are biblically based, you are learning those essential stories, and you're learning the morals and the ethics behind those. And then you start to learn how to apply them to your own life. Not only just seeing them as a picture or just something that you read about or hear about in church, but it just really transforms it into something that is actually felt within and deeply, and it just becomes more real to a person. So for someone who looks at it externally, it would be just another picture on a wall. But we want people to experience the internalness of it and just experience a growth in general. So we believe that having the murals on canvases in the children's wing would really be essential to the children there, because they are still developing and learning, and just learning how to react to different situations, and they're still forming their morals. Honestly, all of us are still learning our own morals. So just starting off someplace with kids who are like sponges to just soak up these stories and these morals that they can get behind them is such a great thing.
Looking through these characteristics of what art can do, we as a church have decided to start this project in our children's wing of the church, as Kaylin said. 65% of our budget that we're taking out, our budget for the art, is going into the children's wing, and then the other 35% is going into sermons. The sermon part of it would be if the pastor had a specific sermon that he thought would be best represented by art and stuff, he could have someone volunteer to paint that mural on a canvas, and we could use it for that specific sermon, or sermons afterwards, and just things like that. And for the children's wing, we're going to start out by using like stories from the books of Genesis and do the major stories that young kids learn and that are most beneficial to them. And
well, the church budget is already over $320 for the year, so we are in need of balancing the budget. So we're planning on taking $250 out of the miscellaneous, which still leaves $250 in there. This leaves us only $70 over the budget, but it's close to being balanced. This makes us more comfortable and at ease to think about cutting money out for the art. After balancing the budget more, we noticed that the youth has $10,000, and we thought this was a lot just for 75 students. We decided to take out $1,500 of the youth budget. This balances the budget and also gives us money for the art. If the youth does need more money, they can always just fundraise it if they need it.
And it's this idea of, as we talked about, the linguistic barriers, the psychological aspects, and then just connecting this into what we really want to do with the church. We saw the budget and we saw these so-called holes that the board saw in this budget. And we decided that it would be easier to fix this budget in such a way that it can come together and we as a church can just grow from this opportunity that we've set forth.